Alright, here we go. So it looks like I'm going second, and I really don't have much of a play here, so we'll see what I can cook up. Now, my opponent is going to summon Cyber Dragon Core. He's putting up a unbreakable board. So he just does a bunch of plays where just keeps drawing cards, discarding cards, draw a card, activate, discard, discard. I mean, he just discards a shit ton of cards from his deck. And I'm pretty sure it's a 60 card deck. So finally he summoned something. And this was a normal summon, which is why I didn't activate Max C before this. But I go ahead and activate it right here because that way if he goes into his extra deck, I can basically get a draw off of that. So he then goes into his extra deck just like I thought, goes into Cyber Dragon Seeger, and then he fusion summons into this card right here, Cyber Darkness Dragon, 8,000 attack, equips a card to it. So I go ahead and go into Kitkalos on his turn, add Scream to my hand, and then he goes into Cyber End Dragon. Now, Cyber End Dragon can basically, it's an annoying ass card that basically grabs cards out of my graveyard or his own graveyard, whichever graveyard he chooses. He can consistently keep grabbing cards out of the graveyard. Now, this card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects, meaning I can't really do shit to this card. Pretty much this card's unaffected, right? So, not much I can do to it. But look how much advantage I have while playing tier limits while Kitkalos is already on the field. So I can pretty much cook the shit out of him. So let's see what I do. So I activate Medora right here to summon Medora. This will allow me to start milling. Also, Gravekeeper Trap will allow me to grab an Elgato. I activate all three cards effects, sending the Tortoise back into the deck, going into Kaleido Heart. Of course, this isn't going to have any effect to this, but we'll see. So I go ahead and activate Draco Stapelia. I send this back, and of course I just target this just because. I mean, it doesn't have an effect, but I just target it anyways because he's not going to summon anything. Then I go ahead and go into Sprite Elf right here. And then I start milling. Now, every time I mill, I send cards from his deck. He had a 60 card deck. He's at 31 cards right now. I go ahead and pop my own card back here so I can get it into my graveyard. And then I use my shuffler to send some stuff back so I can grab the field spell. Because I've played this deck before. I don't want him to gain any advantage. Because if this card gets two equipped cards to it, it can attack twice. I don't want that. So then he's going to activate this right here. Of course, I can't negate it because it's unaffected, but whatever. That wasn't even my point. Baron de Flor was honestly just a bait to keep him from attacking into my Rule Colosse. Rule Colosse is the one that protects the other monsters. So I then pop my own Sprite Elf. He activate this, and then I'm going to negate with Rule Colosse, resummon Rule Colosse back out. And then he attacks into my Baron de Flor just like I wanted him to. And that's why I put this into defense, because I know it's more tasty to attack into Baron de Flor. Even though I'd already used the negate out of it, it's more tasty because he doesn't want me popping stuff with Baron de Flor. It has the quickest pop effect of everything else. Everything else I need stuff to happen. So I put Rule Colosse in defense, hoping that he will not read. I left Kaleido Heart in attack. This card right here can be destroyed except if this card's on the field by battle. So my goal is he would attack into this one, and basically I would take 1500 damage, which will put me on like a 3 or 4 time turn timer. Well, something like that, right? So that's my goal. He attacks into just this one. If he attacks into this, I'm kind of screwed. But even then, it still puts me on a timer because I have multiple monsters, right? So that's the plan. So I go ahead and summon out Sheeran, send this card back. And I want this to be annoying, which is why I'm using Kaleido Heart to send it back rather than popping it with Pearl Areno and it going to the graveyard. Because I would preferably want this in the graveyard, but I want him to target this card because I can deal with that 16th card. He'll draw it, right? Once he draws it next turn, right here, he draws it. There we go. Then he'll equip a card. Now, I did time this at a bad time. That was actually a very bad time to actually use this card. I should have waited until after this resolved and then activated Gravekeeper's Trap. But I can't tell what he's going to target. And I didn't want him targeting my Exchange of Spirit. If he grabbed Exchange of Spirit, I'm in trouble. But does it have to be a monster? Let's see. Oh, actually it has to be a monster. So I could have actually just passed turn and let him grab whatever, because it would not have mattered. So this is what happens. So he has 16 cards left in his deck. I'm going to shuffle these back. Of course, I was still able to mill because I activated the crime to negate that fusion summon. So it started milling anyways. It was going to mill 10 cards off of his deck because Exchange of Spirit was in my graveyard. And then on the next turn, I was going to mill an additional 5 cards out of his deck with the Kelbeck, leaving him with just a 1 card draw. And then after that, he pretty much loses the match. He would have to figure out how to beat me with simply 1 card. And then he would have had to pass turn and then basically lose the game. So GG's, my boy. Hold that L forever. Peace.